going on, kinfolk? Welcome back to my channel. Today's Real Talk Thursday is going to be about wedding day and during the marriage, what our emotional and mental state was. If you guys watched the video on Tuesday, then you know the full story about me, and I'm really interested. I've never heard her story, so I'm like super interested to hear yours, but yikes. I guess we'll go ahead and just jump right in. So if you want to see what our emotional and mental state was on the wedding day and during the marriage, then keep on watching. Okay.
Woo.
Okay, so you were saying in the last video, you started to say that you, on the wedding day, you looked in the mirror and you were like, don't do it.
I was fully dressed in my wedding gown, veil, holding my bouquet of flowers. I was waiting in the back, just waiting for my dad to come and get me to walk down the aisle. And there was like a mirror in the room where we were getting dressed, and I was standing in front of the mirror, and I was just like, don't do it, don't do it. Like, I had an overwhelming sense that it was not the right decision, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I'm like, it's the wedding day, I'm there.
Right.
I can't leave them at the altar. I can't do, I mean, now, at this point in my life, at this age, I'll protect my peace at any cost.
Girl.
Listen, I'm like, I'm not gonna let y'all trick me into nothing. But at that age and where I was mentally then, there's no way. I mean, I just like, well, I guess I'm just getting married. So obviously we got married, and I definitely don't want to say it was bad from the very beginning. I got pregnant with our daughter pretty soon into the marriage, and I think that complicates things as well. We got married in August, and I found out in December that I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
With my daughter. So it was very soon. We didn't have a lot of time to do nothing. Yeah. So there was stress and pressure from that. I was also still in college. He had graduated. I was still in college. So I had my daughter, and so I sat out of school, I'm thinking, for a semester, you know. And that semester turned into more time. And then by then, I got pregnant again with our second daughter. And he would make comments like, I need a woman with, you know, some ambition, who wants to do, you know, like something with her life. And it always kind of felt, in my opinion, that he wanted to complain about all the different things that he didn't like about me, but he didn't want to contribute to helping or being the solution. Because it's a lot to be young and married and be working and trying to figure out how to finish school. That's a lot to try to figure out how you're going to do that on your own. So looking back,
children,
right?
On top of it.
So looking back, I would have loved if he would have been like, okay, well, let's figure this out. I'll talk to my mom and see if she can watch the kids on these days. You see if your mom can watch the kids on these. You know, we'll work this out. It was just like he never wanted to partner with the solution, but he wanted to complain. Right. So we talked in the last video about how your childhood like impacts your state in marriage. So while we were married, I was really trying to figure out how to be a wife, how to be a homemaker, how to be a mom. My mom was not very homemakerly. I think because of everything she was going through with my dad. Looking back now, I think my mom was probably depressed for most of our childhood. Yeah. I didn't know it at the time. So she wasn't like, make sure everything is spick and span, and you know, make sure that everything is nice and there's flowers and the dinner is on the table. And she wasn't doing anything. I mean, we were tuna helper, hamburger helper, you know, ordering pizza. We were just day to day, you know, getting by. So when I got married, I did not have an inclination towards being a housewife.
Right. Yeah.
I had no idea what that looked like. He came from a house where his mom was like that. So that was his expectation of me. And he had no patience.
So did he know? I mean, you guys dated for 3 years, so he knew you didn't cook, obviously, right?
He knew. I think he knew enough that at least he should have been asking some questions.
Right.
If he didn't think that was what he wanted. I mean, like, I didn't hide anything about my childhood or my upbringing or anything. I mean, he knew what it was. But I guess, like so many of us, we wrongly think that once you get married, then getting married fixes something. Right, and it doesn't fix anything. If anything, it exposes the things that you don't already know, because now you are day in, day out living with this person, trying to solve problems, trying to get through the day. And anything that you managed to hide from them before is right there on display.
Right.
So he would, we even realized that we had two different ideas of what it means for the house to be clean. He had the expectation of coming in and having things smell like bleach and Pine Sol. And I'm like, as long as we don't have no rats, roaches, or bugs, we got some sort of counter space and things aren't in chaos, like, I'm cool.
That's funny.
So we had not communicated our expectations. So I think uncommunicated expectations, which like a lot of people go into relationships with, are a killer, because you have something in your mind that you're expecting this person to meet, but you're not going to tell them.
Right. That's my ex did that too. My ex did that too.
So we were all in that trap. I mean, we were all in that trap. He was probably like appalled that I wasn't better at what he wanted me to be better at, but he wasn't really telling me what he expected of me. Or if he did, he would let it probably get to a point where he was so irritated about it that the delivery, probably was laced with like resentment and frustration and anger. So then now I'm defensive, and it was just a hot mess. But I still remember I started to spiral into what was probably depression. I would just cry. Like, I would lay awake at night crying. I still remember one day we were at church. We were leaving, and I was walking out like with his mom. And whatever it was, we were like going from the sidewalk to the parking lot, and I wasn't really paying attention. I was just like in my thoughts, like a zombie. And maybe a car was coming. I'm not saying a car was like speeding by, but like a car was coming, and she kind of like touched my arm. It was almost like, hey, like, hold on. Like, she was like, are you okay? Like, are you all like, because it was just like I wasn't paying attention. And I made a comment like, if I got hit by a car, like, who would care?
So it's passive suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, like what difference would it make?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe, like, you. But that's just where my mind was. Like, I knew that things were bad, but I didn't know how to make them better. And I knew that I didn't want to live that way anymore, but I didn't know what to do. So I was like begging, like, can we do counseling? Can we talk to somebody? And my ex-husband's position at the time, he had a regular job, but he was employed by a church. So in his mind, our pastor wasn't his pastor. Our pastor was his boss.
Gotcha.
So he didn't want to feel comfortable talking to him. And I'm like, can we talk to anybody? Can we talk to somebody? Can we do something? Can we buy a book? Can we watch a video? Can we journal? Can we do something? Because you have to realize when you're at a point that you cannot help yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you have to realize when you need outside help, because you can only take yourself so far. So eventually, the only people that he would like agree. Now, mind you, and it is a story for a whole nother video. His father was like a minister, and his parents were not counseling us.
Really?
They weren't even trying.
Oh wow.
To help, in my opinion. And we were around them a lot, so I think that they knew that we were struggling. So we ended up sitting down and talking to his grandparents. Now, it's always best to talk to someone who's not biased.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was desperate, and he was agreeable to talking with them. So I was like, fine. And I really liked his grandparents. They're awesome people. They had been married for many, many decades at that point. And we were able to talk to them, and I felt like they were unbiased, like they really provided like great insight. But I still remember telling them the story of he would play little, I call them mind games. I don't know what he would call them. So he was always like not happy with the fact that I wasn't like Susie Homemaker. So he would do things like put something somewhere in the house, on the floor maybe, and count how many days would go by until I would see it, or until I would pick it up, or until it would get vacuumed up or whatever. And I remember telling that story, and his grandparents were like appalled. Like, why would you be playing games to that level?
So did he know that you knew what he was doing?
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't,
before that point,
I don't think so.
Okay,
but he knew then, and he didn't feel like anything was wrong with it. He was like, well, she should have been, cleaning. She should have been vacuuming. It should have been picked up. And I shouldn't have to tell you to, I shouldn't have to tell you to do that. But his grandparents didn't have a very good reaction to that. So that was the first, the last, and only time we ever talked to them. I always felt like it was because I think maybe he went in with a mindset like, yeah, these are my grandparents. Right. They're going to be on my side. And they weren't on anyone's side. I really felt like they were on the side of what was right and trying to get us to fight through it. But in doing that, they said some things that we both needed to hear that were hard to hear. And I don't think he liked that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it. So I was still like, okay, I felt like I was spiraling out of control. And then I would get to a point to where I would be like angry, and I would have like, so if we would have an argument, my reaction was like huge. I would even sometimes like get like physical with him, not like beating him up or anything, but I would like push him. My anger was just getting so high. And having like my background growing up with having like abuse in our household, obviously I know it's wrong. I don't think that it's ever right for a man to put his hands on a woman, or for a woman to put her hands on a man. That's just not how you deal with things. But then those learned behaviors that are in the back of your head, when you don't get yourself to a point of emotional wholeness and health, anything that triggers you will make those bad habits come back out. And then he never hit me or anything when we were married or anything like that. So kudos to him, because he never reacted to me doing that by doing it back.
Right.
So let's see. I was pregnant with our second daughter, and I knew that it was over. Because he just didn't want to get help. And I was like, we don't know how to get ourselves out of this. Yeah. We need help. And he didn't want to do it. We were sleeping in separate rooms. It was, I would like even like, okay, I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to put on some lingerie. And I would go and and he would like turn me away. It was just like, he didn't want to have nothing to do with me. So again, finances, if you watched the last video, like finances for us were a huge issue. So I have a little daughter, and then I'm pregnant with our second daughter. And I remember the car that I had at the time, like the tires were like bald. I needed new tires. And I'm like telling him like, okay, like I need new tires, trying to figure out how to make this happen with, as far as the cost is concerned. And his response was, well, just go to one of those places that sell like used tires and just go try to just get whatever you can afford. So no, mind you that I'm your wife, or that I'm pregnant, or that we have another small kid.
He should have taken that.
That you should take that. And he had a car. We had two vehicles. So I know sometimes what a lot of husbands will do is they'll give the most dependable vehicle to the wife.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the wife is driving around with the kids and stuff a lot of time. But that was not his reaction. He was not going to do that. So I ended up turning to my dad, and my dad met that need. Now, when you have like unmet needs in a relationship, it's very dangerous when you allow your spouse to go have their need met by someone other than you.
Absolutely.
Whether it's your parent or whether it's somebody else. Don't send your spouse out with unmet needs. That's how people have affairs. I'm not saying that affair is any person's fault.
Right.
But if they are communicating with you something, it's your duty as their spouse to try to see what y'all can do to work that out. Don't just ignore what they're saying and send them out, is what I'm saying. Try to work through it. So I knew then that I was going to leave him. And it was just a matter of getting up like the courage or whatever to leave. And I still remember now I've had our second daughter, so she's a baby. She was like 7 or 8 months old when I left. We had an argument about money again or something of that nature. And I just remember I was like, you know what? When you get home tomorrow, we won't be here.
Oh, wow.
And that was it.
He didn't say anything about it?
I can't remember what he said, to be quite honest. I really don't. I just remember in my head, I was like, enough. You know how when you get to that point and it's just like, enough. I just remember like, we will be gone. And that's what it was. And I know sometimes like you can like, people do that whole back and forth where they break up and they're back together and they're back. Well, we're separated. And it was never like that for us. It was like I left. I grieved like leaving for probably less than a week.
Wow.
Probably less than a week.
So you were for real done.
I was because I feel like now divorce is nothing to play with.
No, it's not.
You should not go into it lightly. It's a very difficult, and it has long-lasting effects.
Yeah, even if you've only been married for 2 minutes, I was married for.
It has a long-lasting effects. But I felt like I tried so hard while we were married, and I really wanted it to work, that by the time I got to the point where I was like, it's over, mentally I had already done, was starting to move on in my mind.
Yeah.
So then at that point, it wasn't difficult. I had a couple of good cries on the floor of the bathroom at my parents' house. But other than that, I never looked back. I never, from then to now, I have never regretted it. Yeah. Now, I regretted some of the ways that we treated each other. Some things that I wish that I could take back that I either did or said. Because I'm not trying to make it seem like I was the victim and he was some terrible person. I was just like, I'm sitting here holy and chaste, and he was just treating me bad. We both had a fault in it, 100%. Yeah. But I felt like for all I knew to do, or for all, the trying that I could have done, I did everything to try. I did everything to try to get us to a place where we could have gotten help, and I just felt like he wasn't receptive.
I feel like my ex did the same thing. So I know you guys watched the video. If you didn't watch the video, go watch the video about like where I was emotionally and mentally before, during, and after. But I know for me, on the wedding day, I was on the wedding. Okay, first of all, this goes back to what we talked about in the last video, where just not being true to who you really are and what you really want. Mm-hmm. Like we decided that it was literally going to be the pastor, us, and our parents, and that's it. And then we were just going to sign the papers and just be done. And then just, because I didn't want a wedding. Yeah. I have social anxiety super bad, and like I just didn't want all eyes on me, and I'm just so uncomfortable with that. And especially when something is about me, like singing on the worship team, like is different because it's not about me.
Yeah.
But when it's your wedding, it's about you,
right.
especially being the bride. I'm like, oh my God, that's like my worst nightmare. So I did not want a wedding at all. Oh, me either. And then the day started getting closer, and he's like, well, I want you to walk down the aisle. I was like, I do not want to walk down the aisle. but that's just tradition. We literally had the conversation that we were not going to do any of this.
And it always makes me laugh when you imitate his voice. Like
because that's what it sounded like to me. And literally, I was like, as time got on, even the morning of the wedding, we argued. Because he wanted to do a first dance. I'm like, what you talking about? First dance? Like, that is not what we talked about. We literally had specific conversations about what you wanted and what I wanted, and we both agreed that neither of us wanted any of this.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, no, bruh. Like, I'm already
Was there someone in his ear? Like, do you think that after the conversation you guys had about what you wanted, that maybe he talked to his parents or his friends, and someone was like, well, you have to have at least... It wouldn't really be a wedding if you don't have X, Y, and Z. And then maybe he changed his thought process.
I don't know. I mean, if that was the case and he didn't say that, I know one of the things was he said, this is a big deal for me. I want my family to be there. I'm like, okay, I understand that. Which is why I agreed to do something a little tiny bit bigger, because I'm like, I get that. Like, this is he's got a big family. My family's literally 5 people. So, like, for me, it wasn't as big of a deal because, like, it would just be a few people. And with him, like, his family is so big, and he's got, a huge, everybody on both sides, so, and I don't have everybody on both sides like that.
You have to pull in some extra people, because I think, like, didn't, like, Missy and Gabe were there
Missy,
too, right?
Well, Missy and Gabrielle, they were a huge part of, like, the whole process.
Yeah.
So everybody that stood up there with me, because I wanted them to stand up with me. That was my choice. Like, even if we didn't have, like, a big wedding, I still wanted them to be there because they were such a huge part of my, Andrea, Missy, and Gabrielle. I think that was it, yeah. And they were just such a huge part of that season of my life. And I really wanted them to be up there. Or even just in the room if we were just going to sign the papers, whatever. So he kind of felt like, well, you're having your friends, so I want to have my friends. Oh. But he said that he didn't have a whole lot of friends. So I'm just like, what friends you going to have? You said you don't have any friends. Like, wouldn't you? We not just to be inviting people just to be having people.
He's finding out all types of stuff.
Oh my gosh, all kinds of stuff. But I still ignored my instincts. And I had so much freaking anxiety. Oh my God. Like, I think I probably still do have the video somewhere, but so Andrea and her husband were staying at my house. Okay. And he was vlogging the day. And I took a big old thing of Fireball. Like, it was probably a liter of Fireball. And I was like, what
is Fireball?
You've never had Fireball? Fireball is like, it's like a cinnamon. It's basically like drinking Big Red gum. Okay. With alcohol in it. Okay. Yeah, it's really good, actually. And it goes down real smooth. But on that day, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this anxiety. And now he wants to do a first dance and do all this stuff. He wanted to, like, do an official, like, walk down the aisle and then switch songs. Like, no! That is not what I want. Right. And I was just flipping out. And at no point, though, it's really interesting. Like, I still, to this day, don't quite understand. I mean, I do understand it now, because I understand that was something that I had to go through. Just like you were saying in the last video, like, you knew that your situation was something that you had to go through in order to be who you are right now. For sure. I feel the same way. So I get it, but I had even amongst all the anxiety I had about people looking at me and just being about this whole situation being about me, I had peace. And I remember I was walking down the aisle with my dad, which now looking back, my dad is a lot older. He's 80, I think he's going to be 82 this year. And I growing up, that was always one of my fears, was that he wouldn't be able to walk me down the aisle. And, now I'm like, I think the same thing. I'm like, I really want my dad to be able to walk me down the aisle to the right man, but I'm glad that I at least got that opportunity to walk down the aisle with him then. And he was so excited. And I remember saying to the Lord, I'm like, Lord, this is not you. Like, if all my anxiety that I've been feeling, I've been saying it's because of all the people staring at me, is it really about something else? Because if it is, I will run right now.
Yeah.
And he said so clearly, like, if anyone has ever heard an audible voice of God, like, I heard God's voice, and he
Did it
said,
sound like Morgan Freeman?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He said, Shanna, this is part of your journey.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So it's interesting though, and like this is probably not a good thing, but on one hand, I looked at this man that I was about to marry, and I was like, he is so amazing. Like, I did not have any reservations about being with him. I felt more reservation about the idea of not being with him.
Okay.
Like, I loved him, and he was my best friend, and we had so much fun together, and like, I'm like, all of the things that I feel like might be an issue are not even anything that's that big of a deal. So like, even if we do have, you know, okay, so you listen to secular music, like whatever, like, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm thinking to myself, like, all of the things that we do have that are issues, that are red flags, like, are things that we can work through. So I decided to go for it, whatever. But then when we got married, I mean, just like you said, when you live with somebody, your day to day, you start seeing things, like the true colors start coming out. And
you talk about being naked.
For real.
In a figurative sense.
For real.
You are 100% exposed.
You see everything. Yeah. And I started noticing how, like, anal retentive he was. There were a couple of times where he didn't want to just be like, Shanna, like, can you just be careful not to do this? Or he, like, never wanted to tell me anything, which bothers me because I'm, like, I always told him, like, everything, down to if your breast stinks, I'm going to tell you. Oh, no, that's great. That's great. I want you to tell me. You know, that's what he would say. Like, I want you to tell me when my breast stinks. I want you to tell me these things. And like,
until every morning.
Until you tell me.
Now you got a complex
you
thinking you got halitosis.
Right. You burning my ear up. Like, no, I'm just kidding. We would just be sitting there watching TV, and he would just be, he like ate a bunch of onions or something. We would just be watching TV, and I would be leaning against him, and he'd just be breathing, and I can smell it. And I'm just like, your breast stinks. I can't. There's only so much of that you can breathe in. Like,
that's
and he eventually, I mean, I could understand how, like, to me, I would think it's funny. If it was someone who said that to me, I'd be like, thank you for telling me. And I would just laugh about it because I think it's funny. Yeah. But I think that he was hurt because he has rejection issues, and he's very insecure. And I guess I didn't fully know it at the time, but anyway, he would also do something, like something happened. He would do a lot of things, but this is just one of the funny things. You know how, and I know I'm not the only woman who has this issue, so you gotta clean your toilet regularly. Because when you're a woman and you pee, the pee squirts, and then like a little bit ends up on the toilet seat or whatever, and like you don't catch it every single time. So I remember one time he got up and he went to the bathroom first thing in the morning, and I'm like getting ready, and he comes out and he goes, "Oh, I can't stand when this happens. Who gets pee on the seat? Like, who did this? Who do you think did it?
Y'all live with anybody else?"
Right. I'm like, who do you think did it? Why don't you just tell me?
Right.
Like, hey, Shanna, like, this happens every time. Like, can you please, like, just kind of clean the seat? Because I think that's really gross. But instead, you're going to be passive-aggressive and just be like, I can't stand that. If I have an issue with you, I'm going to talk to you about it in a kind way. Like, let's work through this.
Yeah.
But if you can't, like, instead of being like, hey, Shanna, who did this? Oh, I can't stand this. What?
Sorry.
What?
I'm not laughing.
No, it just...
I'm laughing at
it made me
your delivery.
Mad. Like, it's just so dumb. And then there were other times where, like, he used to get mad. Our house at all times could be shown for sale. Okay. Like, our house was so clean. Like, I had my office was a mess because I'm just not really good at putting things in its place immediately. Yeah. Because I don't know how I want it, and I get overwhelmed when there's boxes and tons of stuff to put away. I go through my own little process with that. So he's the kind of person that, like, literally everything goes in its spot immediately. He was OCD for real. Which I actually appreciated about him, because I appreciate a man who's clean.
Yeah.
And even if he was a little bit OCD, like, it didn't necessarily bother me, because I'm like, okay, we can balance each other out. Like, hopefully I'll get a little bit of his OCD. Hopefully he'll chill out a little bit, you know? So, but he would, like, always complain about how messy the house is, and, like, literally everything in here is yours on the counter. Like, so I would on purpose, I know, I didn't, like, do stuff on purpose, like, put stuff places, but I did purposely never leave anything on the counter that was mine. Like, I would always take my mail. I would never leave my keys. I would never do anything. I would always put them in my office and then see what he did. See if he complained. And every time, this house is such a mess. There's always everything on. I'm like, you do realize that for the past 2 weeks, it's always your stuff. And then I did that one time. So
his expectation was for you to keep it clean regardless of whose it was?
But see, the thing about him, though, like, he didn't really need anybody to clean up after him, because he was really clean. So I think he was just looking for stuff to complain about, honestly. Because then he would complain about the bathroom being dirty all the time. And, like, I remember there were 2 times specifically where I literally got on my hands and my knees and I scrubbed the baseboards, I scrubbed the floor, I cleaned that bathroom from top to bottom, and he never noticed.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you, like, what?
Right. But he noticed if there's a piece of lint.
Literally. One time, actually, no, the video's not up. I took all our videos down, but there was one video when his dad ended up coming over and I was cutting their hair, and before he came over, he was like, oh my gosh, there's crumbs on the floor everywhere. Like, why are there so many crumbs on the floor? I'm like, there is 1 crumb on the floor. 1 crumb. He would, like, clean the fridge. Yeah. And, like, if there were, like, scrubs on fingerprints on the fridge, he would, like, it was just insane. Yeah. So I'm over here, like, what the heck did I do? Yeah. You know, we had a lot of really good days, and everything seemed so perfect with him. I felt bad because I thought that I was being a BI. Yeah. And I thought,
picky and too demanding.
Like, he's so amazing. And, like, I'm sitting here thinking all these things, and I'm over here all depressed all the time, and I didn't even know where my depression was coming from. This sadness, and, like, every day I'm crying, and he's being so amazing, and he's hugging me, and he's like, it's okay, we can work through this, and he's just being really awesome about it. But
so he was attentive?
He was very attentive. Okay. He was, I mean, looking back, he was amazing. Like, he was such a great husband on the surface. But I didn't know what was going on underneath. Like, he was doing all his stuff in the dark. You know what I mean? And, like, he was making it seem like he would say all the right things and do all the right things. And we would argue a lot. And, like, there were a lot of times where I was the one in the wrong. You know, and I would just have an attitude. Or one time I came home from work. I actually feel bad about this one. One time I came home from work, and I told him, like, the only thing I'm going to ask, like, I don't really like having people over all the time. I was like, but the only thing I ask is when I have to work, like, when I get home, I work an hour and a half away. It's a 3-hour drive total to and from. Right. And, like, when I get home from a long day, like, can you please make sure that nobody's home? Like, can you just not have people over on those days? And I work 2 days. I work 2 days a week. So he was like, okay, I get home, and this is the first time that I had to work when we moved in our house, and not only did he have somebody over, but they were parked blocking the driveway, so I couldn't even get in. So I'm like, I way overreacted.
You're super irritated.
I was so pissed. Irritated isn't even the word. I was livid. But it was so stupid. Like, I was totally in the wrong for that. And, like, to this day, I just asked the Lord to forgive me. And I apologized later, but he came upstairs and he was, like, excited to see me. And I'm like, why is
I asked you one, you had one job.
One job. So I was such a bee for that. And, like, later on, I really apologized. And we would argue, and then we would talk it through, and I'd be like, I know I was wrong for that. And he would even do the same. I know I was wrong for that if he did something wrong. And for him, it was like he was just saying what he thought I wanted to hear so that we could just sweep it under the rug and be done. And then he would go off and do, like, whatever he was doing on the side or whatever, you know. So it was like, I'm so grateful because You know the reason how I knew he was cheating?
I don't know if we've ever had that conversation.
Did we not? Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, this is crazy. So, and I told you guys this in the Tuesday video, but divorce an option. Let's think about that. Let's pray about that. And he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna fight. And then we were crying and hugging each other and like whatever. But then that day, it was Super Bowl Sunday, so my stepmother-in-law invited me to come over and hang out. And I wasn't going to go because he didn't like us talking. He didn't like me talking to his family about stuff.
Okay.
Which I can understand. I can understand. So I wasn't going to go. And he was like, no, you can go. Which later I realized that was just his way of not having to do it. So if I tell them, that he doesn't have to tell them.
Right.
And now he's kind of off the hook.
Yeah,
or whatever.
he doesn't have to take responsibility.
Exactly. We can fight through this. Like, we're so good together. Like, we can be a power couple. Divorce should never be an option for us. And he got pissed. What? Why are you all of a sudden changing your mind?
Oh.
What do you mean, why am I all of a sudden changing my mind? As if we decided to already get a divorce.
Right.
Like, what? Like, we're not picking curtains here.
Right.
We're like, freaking fighting for our marriage.
He's like, I done already made other plans.
Pretty much. So I'm just like taken aback, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, I know typically men are not good at being alone.
Yeah.
Men, especially married men, will not leave their wives unless they have somebody else lined up. Not just for no reason. Not just for no reason. And so I'm thinking there's somebody else, but his dad is like, no, there's not somebody. He told me there's nobody else. And I'm like, yeah, they would have conversations. Exactly. They would have conversations about it all the time. And I'm just like, I don't know, because nothing else makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, we have issues, obviously, but they're not anything that we can't work through.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense. And then later on, like, his sister was like, and she didn't care if I told anybody. Like, she was like, I don't care. She deserves to know. But, like, out of the blue, we're sitting there, like, talking about stuff. And she's like her and her mom.
Because you were really close to his sister.
Very close with them, yeah. But they were looking at each other, and I'm just not really paying attention. Like, his sister was like, Mom, Shanna deserves to know. I'm like,
oh, Lord.
What? So then she proceeds to tell me that he had been engaged 3 times before me. 3 times. He told me about one. He said he was in college, and he said that she cheated on him, which later I found out was not true at all.
Oh, wow.
But so I found out, so he was engaged. He told me he was engaged at one time in college, that she cheated on him, and that he had never been in a serious relationship after that.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, 3? Like, if I would have known that he had been engaged 3 times, I would have never married him in the first place.
Right.
Like, it's one thing if it was, like, pre-Christ. You know, and he, like, didn't know any better and blah, blah, blah. But, like, no, you claim
now you have a pattern
you
of
went
behavior.
to seminary.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a pattern. It's irresponsible.
Yeah.
It shows that you just lack good judgment.
Right.
And you're impulsive.
So that's a character issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, what? And they're like, don't tell him. Please don't tell him. Like, because nobody's supposed to know about this. And I didn't say anything, because at that point, I'm just like, there's no point in saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? I'm not going to, like, put them in a position, you know, to look bad to him when I'm actually grateful that they told me. So anyway, we didn't vlog very much during that time. She felt like the Lord put me really heavy on her heart, and she prayed. I mean, the email was so beautiful, and she was like, I'm really sorry if I'm overstepping my boundaries, but, like, I just really feel like I need to be obedient here. Yeah. So I actually really respected that, especially her delivery was just so, like, I know that she took that to the Lord.
I mean, that had to have been God, because that's very out of the ordinary.
No way she could have ever known these things. So I ended up looking. I'm like calling Andrea. I just found out. I just got this email, and how do you look and see what people are liking? Like, I don't even know how to do it. So I'm like trying to figure this out, and I see that he's been liking people consistently. And actually, a couple of the people lived in California, which he soon after took a trip to California on his birthday. And so I saw that he was liking all these pictures, and there was an issue that we had one time with this So he posted a video of him like lifting weights because we would always record each other in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
We worked out together a lot. She posted like a heart eyes emoji underneath the video, which, you know, when you have a YouTube channel, like you have subscribers following you. There's gonna be a lot of stuff like that. So, but discernment. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when it's something that just hits you the wrong way. Like I could tell that this was something else.
Right.
So I ended up, this is before I found out any of this, I ended up confronting him about it. I'm like, who is this person putting heart eyes under your picture? What are you, the Instagram police? And I'm like, what are you talking, like, I can tell the difference between a subscriber
and now I know you're guilty because you just got super defensive for no good reason.
Was pissed. And he was at work at the time, so we're like talking on the phone, and he's livid, like that I even said anything about it. And at that time I had no proof, so I had to just let it go.
Now pause for a minute, because like if there are any men who watch your channel and your videos, hopefully there are, I would say a lot of times men will accuse women of being paranoid and stuff like that, and insecure. However, if you are married, God has designed the wife to have a discernment for her husband that he does not have.
Yes. And he had none.
So if you guys are following Christ, if you have a prayer life of any capacity, God speaks to the wife in a way to protect the husband, to protect the marriage. We get to see things that the man doesn't see, and it's usually for his protection or for the protection of the marriage.
Right.
So that makes sense why that one emoji could stick out for you different from anything else, even though there's no context behind it. That really could have been the Holy Spirit telling you there's something else here. Right. Now, if he had been not doing anything shady, he could have been like, oh, you think so? Now he knows to watch out for someone who may not have good intentions, and that way you guys are better together. Like you make each other stronger. The Holy Spirit tells you something that pricks your spirit, and he says, okay, because he knows you have his back.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Because there was one time actually where I had a guy friend who we're still friends. But when we got married, I posted a selfie, and he liked it, and he also made, like, you look really good, or whatever, and I just said, thank you. Wait, did I respond? I might not even responded. I don't think I responded. Out of respect for my husband, I didn't say anything, or if I did, it was just like, thank you, or something. And he saw it, and he confronted me about that, and he was just like, who is this guy? And I was just like, oh, that's my friend from, like, we went to school together, or whatever. He had an issue with it. So I was just like, I didn't say anything, or if I did, it was just this. And he was like, but you didn't, like, you left it there. Yeah. And I was like, so I deleted it. I deleted his comments. And I was like, not a big deal. Like, I'm going to respect you. And I even text this friend and told him, like, out of respect for my husband, we need to not communicate anymore. Because I don't have any issue doing that, because like I'm going to respect you. I'm with you. Right. So it's like, why am I going to hold on to this friendship, which he and I like didn't talk that much. Like we were cool, but like it wasn't worth losing my husband. Right. You know, so that was that. But anyway, so she told me all that. So I ended up looking. So after I saw the heart eyes, whatever, he's like, fine, I'm gonna delete it and da 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 da. Well, when I looked to see all the pictures he was liking, there were like these pictures of like a makeup company, and I'm like, what in the world is this? Like this is weird. So I did a little digging. I know you ain't cross dressing. No, yeah, I'm like, at first I was like, but then no. So because before when I looked this girl up and I kind of checked her out and saw where she was from like London or something, and then this makeup company, I ended up like, there's some kind of connection here. Right. So I ended up looking at the makeup company's in London. Okay. So instead of liking her picture, he deleted her so I wouldn't realize it. He wanted her, like he was trying to basically get her attention by liking all of her company's pictures to make her know that he's still here. So yeah, that all happened. Whatever. So then long story short, I confronted him about liking all the pictures and he was pissed. This goes to show how much you're trying to save our marriage. Huh? Like, what? So he gets so pissed. At that point, I'm just so numb about it all. Like, all the lies. I knew he had 3, fiancés, and I couldn't tell him. And all these lies that just came to the surface.
Did you ever tell him that you knew that?
Yes, I did. After the fact. Like, after, the crap really hit the fan. And he's like, I told you about one, and I thought that covered them all. What?
No, we don't do that type of math. We don't do that type of math.
Girl, like, look. So then after he got so pissed, like, he was getting ready to leave to go to the store. He was downstairs for a good 30 minutes pacing back and forth. I could tell he was like, like, what am I gonna do? And like, that's what it seemed like to me. Yeah. But I didn't know at that time exactly what was going on. So I felt like the way he's reacting right now, there's something more, and I need to know what it is. Like, we're not dating. Like, I don't check guys' phones like that. Like, I've never been the kind of girl to go through somebody's phone. If someone calls you, I don't look. If someone texts you, I don't want to know. I want the Lord to reveal it to me. When we're married, you better believe I'm about to log into your account. Yeah. So I logged into his Instagram account and saw that he had been talking to several women on Instagram. One of them being this woman. And not only that, but, like, their interactions had graduated from, hey, how are you, to I think they were talking on WhatsApp. And he would not show me any of the messages. Because he was like, I don't know what I want to do. I was like, let me see. When was the last time you talked to her? Like, let me see your interaction. Yeah. No, he wouldn't show his phone. Yeah. He wouldn't do any of that. So I ended up logging in, and he had been talking to this woman. So their interactions graduated, to WhatsApp. I could tell because they were just sending each other little, like, 15-second funny video type things. The last video he sent her was a video of a guy and a girl in a club. It was dark in the club, but the guy was going down on the girl in the club in the video. So you know that their relationship got way comfortable. They had been talking for a minute. And even looking back at our old videos, I could see where, because at first he was into vlogging.
First of all, that ain't even sanitary.
Right.
Y'all don't be out there doing stuff like that.
So I noticed that, like, in our videos, that his excitement about vlogging, like, he was always okay with it. Like, I asked him if he wanted to do it, and he wanted to, but he started, like, initiating vlogging more, like, in January-ish, and I could tell, like, looking back, that he was excited about it because he knew that he had this person watching. Okay. You know what I mean? You know how people act different when they have someone watching or whatever. So, yeah. So then I found out.
Yeah, I just want you to watch me vlog with my wife.
Right. Like, I have one video that I always...
That's raggedy.
I always kept where we did New Year's resolutions. I told all of you guys at that time, like, my New Year's resolutions and, like, all the things that I wanted to better about myself or whatever. And he started to vlog about his, and he was like, yeah, I really want to, be a better husband, and da-da-da-da-da. All the while, he's talking to these women. It was insane. I mean, I thought I was in the Twilight Zone. I was such a hot mess. Yeah. It was crazy.
I felt that same way, too. Like, that feeling of being in the Twilight. Like, how did I get... Yes. It can get to a point where when you're with someone, especially if there's, like, lying or manipulation, where you think, I don't even know what's right or wrong anymore. I don't know what's up or down. You're like, what is going on? Right. They could be telling you so many things that you're like, I don't know what's true anymore. Right. It feels like the Twilight Zone. That is actually... That's true.
Yeah. It's really, and it's scary when you realize that someone's a pathological liar. Because I logged into his account several times. I was, like, trying to keep track of when they were talking, and then we had written up a marriage agreement that we needed to get signed on, like, a Monday, and Sunday is when we had the conversation when I logged into the account, when I found out the truth. So I wasn't going to say anything until after we had our marriage agreement signed, because he was going to give me, because I lost a lot of clients when I got married, because people were like, oh, you're not going to work in Bloomington anymore. It won't be long. So I lost a lot of clients. This marriage don't cost me money, bruh. Yeah. Like, I'm out here, like, trying to be the best wife. I'm making his dinner every night, and I'm getting all of his lunches together and, like, all this stuff. So I'm sacrificing that, which he wanted me to work more. He felt like I lied to him about how much money I made. But, like, no, I didn't lie to you. We were literally married for 3 months. Like, the two of the months that we were married were the slowest months of the year for my job. So, like, he never even had a chance to know about it. You know what I mean? So, whatever, but...
Because you wouldn't have, like, a consistent... You're not, like, a person who...
When you're self-employed, you don't get, like, a monthly income. You have good months and you have bad months.
Yeah.
So, so I wanted to make sure that agreement was signed. So then once we got it signed, we drove separately because he ended up, like, trading his car in for a BMW, his truck. Which is a whole nother story because there's so many things. Like, my car broke down and he wouldn't, like, he didn't want me to drive. He did let me drive his truck because that was the right thing to do. But he didn't want me to drive it because he didn't want to put miles on it. Mm-hmm. So I remember we took my car in to see what was wrong with it, and they didn't get back to us. And because he was so mad because he didn't want me to take his truck to Bloomington. Mm-hmm. So we went to eat at BW or something. And then we drove back to the dealership to see where they were at, and they were closed, and everybody left. And he was pissed because he wanted them to give me the keys back so that I could drive my car to work because he didn't want miles on his truck. And then when I did drive his car, like we would, I remember after I drove his car for a couple days, he ended up, like, looking at the tires like, did you hit the curb or something? Because there was, like, a scuff on the tire. I'm like, this fool! Like, what in the world? Why? How did I get here?
That makes me think of the last video when I was telling the story about the tires.
Yeah.
My ex-husband had gotten a new, like, a Cadillac from, like, the truck that he used to have. So he had got a car that he kind of wanted to get that was more like of a more status, status type symbol. So I understand that because it was like he wanted to, again, that facade, that outward appearance of seeming like, okay, well, look at what I have and things and stuff that people get caught up in.
When you start talking to a new person, you start feeling some type of way. So maybe she liked BMWs. And
you want them to feel some type of way about you.
So, like, let me trade my truck in for this this BMW that I'm leasing, and it just doesn't make any type of financial sense.
Right.
It was just such a ridiculous situation, I swear. It was so ridiculous. So after we signed the papers, I was just mortified because the whole situation, even going in there we had the agreement notarized. And I remember the Lord was like, have all 3 pages notarized. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, really? And he was like, yeah. So I did.
Explain what the agreement is. Our
marriage agreement, we didn't want to have any lawyers involved. We wanted it to be easy. Well, he especially, because I could have probably taken I'm just not that person. Like, I'm not going to take half his pension or whatever else because I feel like
this is like
dividing assets and stuff like that.
Oh, I got you.
And
I
feel like
I'm thinking you're talking about like the friendship contract that Nene had Cynthia sign.
Oh no, no. Because I think that in Indiana is a 50-50 state, so regardless of how long you've been married, and I could be wrong about this, but I think I could still have taken half of everything. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see the point in that. That's just not me. Like, I'm not trying to, he worked hard all these years doing what he does. So it's like, I'm not trying to take half your pension and take all the stuff. Like, I just want what's fair. Mm-hmm. And, so we divided everything up. And I wanted to make sure that I got all the papers for the ring because he thought he was getting the ring back. And I'm like, hell no. Especially since you got all 3 other rings back. Not happening. You about to learn today.
You got a collection of rings. You got to... No, open him a jewelry store.
For real. So, so we get home. I get home, and I checked his Instagram account one more time, and he changed the password. And then I get home, and I asked him so many times, like, are you in any way, shape, or form talking to any women about anything, and any, like, as friends, anything?
Yeah.
No, Shanna, I would never do that to you. And, like, if I didn't know he was lying, I would have believed him.
Yeah.
And then I asked him one more time, and he goes, why do you keep asking me that? Is it because you logged into my account? And I said, yes, as a matter of fact, I did. And I'm glad I did because you're up. Ooh, I went.
Yeah.
I have never cussed anybody out like that ever in my life. But it was crazy. And he was like, I can't believe you would do that to me. How could you? Oh my God, can't believe you would do such a thing.
How could you find out that I was lying and cheating?
Exactly.
How could you find that out?
I couldn't even believe it. Was like trying to rationalize with a brick wall.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious right now? You're mad at me because I logged into your account. You cheated on me.
Yeah. Like, I am your wife.
Right, and there were so many other. I could go on and on about this, but yeah, it was crazy. So leaving for me was like kind of, it was similar. I think just the way everything happened for me, like I was just so grateful to God that everything happened the way it did, because like one, we could have been stuck in that situation. Yes, no kids. We were stuck in this, and like there was just crazy thing. He wanted us to live in the house together as roommates. Yeah, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. But he like wanted me to pay
after.
Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah. Before I found out he was cheating, we had talked. He talked about that, and I'm just like, I agreed to it for a short amount of time, but I'm just like, I can't be your roommate.
Yeah.
But he wanted me to pay because we bought a washer and dryer, our TV, and our bedroom set under my credit card, and he was going to end up paying it all off, but he felt like it was fair for me to pay half the bill while I was still living in the house, because I was using it too. Okay. It was so ridiculous. His true colors, the way they showed, was just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It was so I was
looking back, do you think that there was anything that would have saved the marriage? Before
I found out how much of a pathological liar he was, we could have saved it.
Yeah.
And I honestly, if he would have been like, Shanna, I know that I lied to you about a lot of things. I know that I cheated on you. I know I did all these things. But like, I want to be better. Like, I want us to work this out. I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so grateful that I didn't have to. I'm not even going to lie.
Right.
But I would have. But he said that me telling his family the truth, because he was lying to his family about what was really going on, telling them one thing, and then I was like, no, you're not about to lie on me. I'm about to tell you the truth. So I told him the truth. He was like, too much damage has been done. You told my family, and that's basically unforgivable.
So he wanted to keep up with the lie.
Pretty much. He wanted me to just pretend like it never happened, and he was mad that I told him the truth. Even to this day, actually, JR literally just told me on Sunday. JR's wife ran into my ex's grandmother at the hospital, and I guess they had a conversation. She was like, "Oh, you go to Heartland? Like, do you know my grandson?" And she's like, no. And she's like, oh yeah, he used to be married to Shanna, and they just had different ways of doing things. Like, he wanted it this way and she just wanted it this way. It just didn't work out. Yeah, no, that's not what happened. Right. That's not what happened.
Sorry to break your heart, Granny.
Right. I don't know if she knows the truth and she just doesn't want it. I don't know. I just don't know. Or he probably convinced them. I don't know, because he lies about everything, and I'm sure he's still lying about it to this day. And I'm not saying I'm innocent either, because I had my part to play in it. But I can truly say that there is no blood on my hands. I am not the reason why our marriage didn't work.
Yeah.
I am not the reason why our marriage didn't work.
And it can be hard. I think one of the hardest things that you can do, like after a divorce or any type of relationship, is to be honest about your role in it. So like, I could see him lying to Granny, or sometimes people just lie by omission. Sometimes you don't want Granny to know you a sleaze bag.
Right. But I think Granny already knows he's a sleaze bag. That's the thing.
So it's like, how much do I really put out there? But people have to understand, telling the truth sets you free. It sets you free to be the best version of yourself, because we all make mistakes.
Yes, we do.
And God can redeem any person in any situation. But you have to be honest about where you are.
Right.
He's not going to take you from here to there based off of your dishonesty.
Absolutely. And he could have really used this situation, our failed marriage, as a way to help other guys. Like, hey, this is what I did. This is, and again, like, I play my role out. I've been very open about where I was wrong in this situation. But like, he could have really like used his situation to minister to other guys, other men, like just anybody. Like, don't do what I did. Don't do this, or like just. There's so much he could have done with that, but instead he just wants to just. Actually, Gabriel's husband ran into him.
Oh,
Chad ran into him at like a Starbucks or something, and because they were cool. They didn't know each other that well, but like we used to hang out with them sometimes.
Yeah.
And so Chad goes up to him and he's like, oh, hey, man. And he goes, there's two sides to every story.
Ooh, he got a guilty conscience. Honey, don't just walk around with all that stuff on your chest. You need to free yourself. Tell the truth. Tell somebody. He gonna kill himself.
That don't need to be the first thing that you say to somebody.
Holding on to that guilt and like, don't do that to yourself.
I pray for him. Actually, I thought I saw. That's how I knew I was free, because I knew I was healed. I knew I was whole, because I thought I saw him one day recently, within the last couple months, at like Meijer or something, and he works days now, I guess. And I saw a car that looked like it could have been his, and I ended up texting him like, hey, is that you? And then he never responded. But I actually was like going to go up to him and be like, how are you? Like, I genuinely pray that he is doing well. I pray that he's dealing with his issues more than anything, because I want him to be set free. I want him to experience the type of emotional freedom that I'm feeling. Like, but he's never going to do that unless he deals with his issues and stop pretending like they never happened. Yeah. You know what I mean?
What a tangled web that has been woven.
Yeah. For real. So, those are our marriage stories. Woo! Where we were.
Yours read like a soap opera. Mine wasn't quite
I swear it was a soap opera. Are you kidding me? I still, to this day, even everybody that was involved, like people that I was close to, that I was talking to about it, were like, if I had to put it in a visual, everybody's head is spinning. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
What? It was crazy. But in next week's video, we're going to talk about kind of where we were post-divorce, our healing process, and the first relationships that we had after we got divorced. So, if you want to hear
from bad to worse, no.
Mine was good. I'm kidding. So, if you want to see that, then hit the notification button so you can be updated on when the next video posts, which will be next Thursday. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, and help me to continue growing my family. Bye, guys.